Hey, y'all sit down. How y'all doing? Can y'all hear me? If I stand here, can you see me? I feel like I want to sing and dance. What am I supposed to talk about? I'm supposed to talk about creativity, I think, in crisis to creativity. I grew up in this building. For those of you that don't know much about me, I didn't really want to be a politician. I wanted to be an actor. And I actually was a professional actor when I was 16 years old. I started at the Beverly Dinner Playhouse. And I had done a bunch of stuff at Jesuit and started singing when I was about 13. And my ambition in life was really to sing on Broadway. I haven't done that yet, but I'm gonna. And I told people when I was running for mayor, y'all should go back and look at my stuff. There's a little asterisk at the bottom of every sign or every pamphlet that says, listen, I'll do this gig for a little while. But if, like, Les Miserables comes through town and I get cast as Jean Valjean, I'm leaving. Everybody keeps asking me, so you're going to run for governor, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. The only thing you can be sure that I'm going to do, the only reason I would leave is if I got a part in a play that I really liked. I'm hitting the road. Just want y'all to know that. In 1986, I played the role of Che Guevara on this stage. The last time Le Petit did Evita. And this is a very special place. It's the oldest community theater in the country. And it is a place that symbolizes what it is that we need to be doing right now. Because the way you get to resurrection and redemption is through creativity. Now, unfortunately, the best way to get to creativity is to be in pain. If you think about it. It's always a curious thing to me. Right after Katrina, when we were rescuing people, you saw the darkest moments, but you also saw the brightest moments. Some amazing things happened on the streets of this city, in this neighborhood, around here. People helping people. They would have never helped them before, but necessity required that they do something different. And walls came down that we had put in place just because they had been there forever. Now, if you look at these pictures and you think about what's going on here, you have pictures of despair, and then you have a picture of hope and resurrection, if you think about it. This was the day that it went all bad. Storm came in, storm went out. Not a big deal for all of us. Usually have a hurricane party on the porch, drink a little wine, clean up the next day. Everything's good, and that hurricane was fun. That's the way it used to be, right? And that's the way this one was until the next morning when General Landrieu came in and said, we got a problem because the levee breached. Man-made disaster, right? And that changed our lives forever, before and after. And so the issue was, how are we going to get back to where we were? And a lot of people said, well, that really isn't the issue, because we don't want to go back to where we were. We want to go someplace different. We don't want to go someplace completely new, but we want to go someplace and be as rich and as good as we should be a long time ago. And many of us remember that way back when the United States, before they became the United States of America, this place where we live in, where Bienville and Iberville kind of got together right out there in Jackson Square, we used to be the hub for the rest of the country. In 1960, we were bigger than Atlanta and Houston. So one of the things I wondered was, why did it take a catastrophe for people to get focused? Now, everybody sees this every day. If you watch football, you know, the football players, they play hard the whole game. But when the 2-minute clock starts, we got a brand new game. And they execute in an amazing way that you think, well, how come they didn't play that way the whole game? Think about Joe Montana, right? And so who knows why people do that, but it's instructive. If we could find a way to be that creative all the time, how much better would we be? Yesterday, you heard, probably weren't paying attention, you probably just thought it was just another announcement, but we're getting $1.8 billion from the federal government to rebuild every school. That's good. I appreciate it, but that's not the point. I want to tell you that the only reason that happened is because somebody broke a bunch of rules that existed before. See, FEMA has never, ever given anybody a lump sum settlement for everything because the rules said that they couldn't. But what happened is very, very early on, some years ago, when we were sitting in a room together, a bunch of us saying, this makes no sense, because we have to rebuild a new school system. We have to build a 21st century school system. We have to create something new. But the rules said that we couldn't do it. So instead of saying, okay, fine, we can't do it, let's move on, we want you to give us a little bit of money for each window that's broken, and we'll rebuild Wilson School the way it was. Or we'll rebuild all the schools. We started figuring out what happened? And they said, hey, man, we can't do that. That would take an act of Congress, to which we said, well, that's fine. If that's what the hell we need, then that's what we'll do. And so Congress had to actually pass a law that allowed us to be creative. And so as a consequence of that, now we are going to be able to create something new, LEED certified schools, schools with 21st century technology, schools that teach better than they did before, spaces where kids can be safe, healthcare clinics, et cetera, right? That's creativity out of destruction. But the only way it happened, and this is the kernel, is that you got to be willing to do it different. You have to insist on doing it different. And just because the rules are a certain way, you got to change them, because you have to be focused on the outcome. There is another pathway. Whatever pathway we're taking today, we ought to try another pathway just because. Because it's in that creative destruction, that creative renewal, that you find new answers that you never thought about. We are captured as human beings by what we did before. You see this in fighting wars. You see this in playing games. You're always preparing, and the way you prepare is by thinking about what happened in the past as opposed to what happened in the future. We don't spend enough time thinking about what's coming our way. And while we're focused on the past, while we're focused on what's immediate before us, we're not looking up and think about what else is coming our way. So, for example, as we struggle through this budget crisis, as we struggle through the BP oil spill, as we kind of commemorate the determination of Katrina, I asked my staff the other day, okay, that's great. We're busy. We're doing 24/7. Can we stop for a minute and let's look up? Is there anything else coming our way that we should know about? Is there anything that we should be prepared for? Because, of course, we're not the masters of our own destiny. We live in a multidimensional, global economy where bad things happen that you can't predict. And so how do you organize yourselves to be prepared and flexible enough to respond to it? The order of the day in the future is a community that's organized to respond to whatever comes its way and to find a way to yes as opposed to a way to get stuck in no. And the only people who know how to do that are entrepreneurs and creative people. That is the order of the day, creating something new. But you have to be willing to take the risk of being different and having people try to grab what it is that they know. Shortly after Katrina, I was in a boat. I was in the 9th Ward. We grabbed a lady off a porch. She was holding a clock. Strange. She had nothing. She was wet, soaking wet. She had a clock, and she wouldn't let it go. And she was in the boat, and I said, babe, why are you holding that clock? And she said, babe, let me just tell you one thing. She said, my house is gone. She said, all of my friends have disappeared. She said, I don't know nothing, except I know what time it is. And I'm not letting go of this clock until I feel better. And that was an incredible symbol of how strongly people will hold on to something because they know it. And in the long term, that's a dangerous thing, because sometimes you just have to let go. And sometimes you have to be willing to recreate. And sometimes you have to tell people who cling to the past that there is a better future, and that the better future is not completely different, and it could actually be more like you are. So we say really wonderfully to the people of Chicago and to New York and to Los Angeles, all these great places where wonderful things are happening, that we love you and we appreciate your help, but we really don't want to be like you. We want to be more like ourselves, but our real selves, where the authenticity and the creativity and the beauty and the color and the exquisiteness of New Orleans manifests itself to the world. That's what we're in the business of creating. And so you go from this to bad things happening up there to oil, right? You go from complete destruction to being able to teach children how to take care of themselves so they don't drown if they happen to be swimming in Lake Pontchartrain, or to children now that have a fantastic future because they have good teachers at good schools. Or at the end of the day, even though it's a game, it really is not. You go from the worst to the best, and the city of New Orleans learns how to win. I'll make this confession to you, that the Super Bowl victory was not my most special moment in the Saints season. It was in the NFC Championship, in the last couple of seconds, when the field goal kicker lined up on that thing. And I don't know if y'all noticed this or not, but everybody in the stadium stood up, took a deep breath, grabbed hands. Black people, white people, people from Metairie, people from New Orleans holding their hands, and everybody in the city knew he was going to miss it. They knew it. He was going to miss it because that's what always happens, right? That's what always happens. We get close, but we fail. We get close, but we fail. We get close, we get right there, and somebody takes it away from us. When is our moment going to come? Is it really, really possible? And when that boy's foot hit that ball, and that ball went through the uprights, the city of New Orleans found itself a new future. That was the moment for me. I don't know if that was the same way for you. That's when the people said, you know what, we really, really can win. There's no question about it. Nobody here thinks that this is going to be easy. Nobody here thinks that it's going to be short, but everybody here now believes that we're going to make it, because the one message that we're sending to the rest of America, although there's a mixed message about parts of the city that are back and parts of the city that are not, the one thing that everybody knows is we're still standing, we're unbowed, we're unbroken, and there's no way that New Orleans is not going to be a great place to live in a couple years. God bless y'all all, and thank you so much.